today we thought maybe it was more interesting to start with what you just went through, and maybe
Yeah.
to go in the other way,
Yeah, I think so.
and see where we can go. So yeah, maybe a good first question would be, are you happy with the performance, and how are you feeling coming in? I mean, after that first Ironman, 17.3, and how do you see the future now that you've done the first?
Yeah, it was a baptism of fire. Um, yeah, I mean, making such an aggressive change from pro cycling to pro triathlon, and to be on the start line of a half Ironman as my second ever triathlon against Olympians, world champions in multiple disciplines. Like I was in the deep end. Um, and in my case, like I'm developing as a swimmer. And so to start the race with the swim, I was always going to have a challenging time to get back to the front of the race from the swim. Um, but all in all, like I did really quite a fast time. Like 3:46 is not slow for a second ever triathlon, first ever pro triathlon and half Ironman. So it was a fast time, and I did a good performance overall. So I have to be happy with it. But yeah, it was a big wake up call to see the swim standard because they're really fast. Some of the swimmers there, Matt Hauser, he's one of the fastest short course guys in swimming, and yeah, to experience the speed of those guys and to be humbled by them in the swim was what I needed, I think, to see the standard that I need to get to. I have a lot of work ahead of me. It was, I mean, a big positive was like my ride and run is definitely at the standard to win races. So if I can fix the swim, then I can be a world class athlete at the top of the sport. Because on the weekend there was the best of the best at that race. So yeah, it was fun. Like I'm pretty competitive, so like to finish not on the podium or
Mm.
whatever, it was. I mean, if you look at the company, people would say, of course you weren't going to do well, but I'm just competitive. So, but it was nice in the run to catch a lot of people and mow them down, and it was quite satisfying to know that at one point I was 9.5 minutes behind the race, and then I beat half the field, half the pro field by the finish line. So I'm pretty proud of that effort. Yeah.
And it wasn't, I think, any pro field in the regard that that race, I think, was part of the Ironman Pro Series. I think it's called like that. So it
Yeah.
meant that basically it was a stacked day and many athletes, good athletes were there, because there is usually the same way. Like there are some more competitive cycling races. You also have some more competitive triathlon races. And the one you picked for your professional debut was well, not exactly the easiest you could have. So was it your choice to go to that race, or like do you have a coach who maybe thought that it would be a good idea to, like compare yourself to the best of the best?
Well, when I put a 6 month plan together, when I made the decision to go from pro cycling to pro triathlon, my first race was always going to be this race. Now, when I made this decision, the start list was not public, and all these big names didn't say that they were going to race.
Mhm.
So I thought that I was just going to be up against, some local guys. I didn't realize that, yeah, so many guys from the T100 were going to be there, and yeah, world champion in Yellow and yeah, multiple Olympians as well. So yeah, but I wanted to race in front of my family and friends as well. And I also wanted to see and to feel what a top race feels like.
Mhm.
I think it was really, I mean, there's positives and negatives to that. Obviously, there's a likelihood that I get pretty humbled. But then it's also good to see in person yeah, what how fast they go basically, and what I need to do to improve to get to the level that I want to get to. So, um, yeah, I will definitely be looking for some easier races. Like a bit of context, the winner did an overall time of 3:33, the world champion, Yalagins, and he was saying that like this, his swim time, bike power, and run pace was better or on par with the World Championships from Taupo in New Zealand later last year. So to hear him compare it to the World Championships made me feel a bit better about myself. So yeah.
And do you feel like you were able to perform at the level you wanted to, like in terms of were you at 100%, or do you feel like you were only like 80 because of like the pressure or the unknown a bit?
Yeah, it's hard to know if I was on a good day or a bad day because it's my first one. I feel like you need to have a few attempts at something to understand what's a good and bad performance. Um, like for example, the swim. If you saw the swim, someone would say that that's the worst swim they've ever seen in pro Ironman. But actually, if you give it context, like I've gone from beginner swimmer racing against professionals, so of course I'm going to finish quite far behind. Um, and then on the bike, it's difficult to compare to the other guys because there's still a bit of drafting in their big pack, and I'm completely alone. So I did like 30 to 40, maybe even 50 watts more than the other guys for the same speed. So I did the same bike split for as the front pack as the guys. Um, and then also going into the run, I'm way more fatigued than everyone else because I've been doing way more power. So my run is not a true comparison to the other guys. So I mean, all in all, like the performance in itself was super consistent, and so I felt like I sat at like a good sub threshold pace for the whole time and never exploded or had any problems. So that alone, as my first half Ironman, I think I can call it a good first attempt. Yeah.
I also did a 70.3, like it was last year. So if you ever need like a bit of confidence, there is that one 70.3 in South Korea. There is absolutely no pro going there. And I was swimming a 32-minute, I had like a 32-minute swim, and I finished, I think I was fifth out of the water. Because Koreans are actually like really bad at swimming. So if there is like any point in your career moment where you feel like you need that confidence back, then you just take your plane ticket and you go there. It was actually
Okay,
like
good
a
to
funny
know.
race as well. Yeah,
I'll message the organizers if I need to.
yeah.
I need a win, guys. Let me
But
come.
so it feels like swimming is really the key part, the crucial element to kind of crack the code, so that you can make it to that front pack, or I don't know, like second pack, and be able to benefit from the drafting that you get in the bike. So do you feel like you've got a solid plan for that, or like what has been the progress like over the last 6 months, and is the trajectory looking good enough for you to be able to one day kind of play for the top spots and go for the win eventually?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in November, when I started swimming properly, doing proper swim training, I could do 500 meters at 2 minutes per 100, and I would have to stop because I was too fatigued.
Okay, I
Um,
think now is a good moment to stop. So you're really a beginner in swimming, because some
yeah,
people, they say, I'm a beginner in swimming, but they already start swimming and they're like at like a 1 minute 30 pace or something like that. So this is really like a beginner level. If you swim
yeah,
like what 200
Mm.
meters at a 2 minute per pace, yeah, it's not much.
yeah. So, but whereas now, like, I feel like I can do 130s for 2K, which is what I did on the weekend. Um, so it's an improvement, a fast improvement, but it's kind of like it's like with cycling training and running training. The level of improvement is pretty fast from a low level to a medium level,
Hmm.
but then to get from a medium level to a high level, it's a lot harder. Diminishing returns, I guess we call it.
Yeah.
Um, so I have to do some more speed work. I need to probably double my volume, uh, if I want to make sure that I can use my biking talent and running talent in these races, because otherwise I will always be chasing. Um, and there's guys in triathlon who do suffer from a bad swim and then they try to come back during the races, and every now and again they get a race where the dynamics work and they do get to win, but they are forever suffering in the swim. And I don't want to be that guy in this sport. I want to be able to to do well at every race. So I need to work heavily on my swim. Yeah.
I wonder, like, coming from a completely non-triathlon background myself, like in terms of doing the sport and watching the sport or understanding the sport, I wonder how it would compare in a more mainstream sport, this idea that you swim like much worse than the other guys. Like in terms of, I don't know, a tennis player, it would mean that it has no backhand, like practically, or how would it compare to something more mainstream so that people can understand and I can
Yeah.
understand a bit better.
I mean, everyone understands running, right?
Mm-hmm.
And running is all about time, and everyone understands time. So in my case, like the swim in my case is 20 minutes. So let's say that we're racing at 10K, and these guys, the front guys, they're running 10K in 30 minutes. I'm doing my 10K in 40 minutes, basically. That's probably the similar difference. So
So
I'm
that,
swimming
yeah.
against guys that can run, or the equivalent of like 3 minutes per kilometer, and I can only do 4 minutes per kilometer. Even slower, 4:30s. Yeah.
And is it a bigger handicap because it's the first of the three disciplines? Like imagine a world where it would start with cycling, then running, and finishing with swimming. Would you like? Would it be better for you? I guess I would say
For
yes. Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Because because of the swim, I'm behind in the swim, and then I don't get the benefit of the draft on the bike. So if you were to put the ride in the start, then I could get a head start into the swim and then be still at the front of the race for the run.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So this would be like your preferred order if you were to choose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I might send some emails to the organizations asking for a change in discipline order. Yeah.
Send it to the South Korea organization so that you have the perfect race.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, but I just need to work on my swim. It's
Mhm.
as simple as that. There's nothing more complicated.
And it's really the key. Like so it's the key of the race, the swim, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my context. And I don't need to become the fastest swimmer, but I just need to be able to swim at 1:15s to be able to hold the fees of the slower second pack, for example. So I don't need to be at the front, but yeah, I need to be at the minimum being able to come out of the water with the slowest, biggest group, basically. So that's what but then also maybe I go to Europe and go to some smaller races, and maybe the swimming standard is not so crazy fast. Like a lot of the guys that I were competing against on Sunday, they were really strong swimmers, but not very good runners or riders. So eventually I caught them anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel Australians I always see the Australian flag at the like T1 in triathlon. I feel like it's the kind of national sport. Like they are just so good. So
100%.
yeah.
100%.
But
Yeah.
I watched a fair bit of YouTube videos, you know, like Sam Long has that YouTube channel, Lionel Sanders also. And I feel like they haven't improved the swim in like years. And I heard that um, swim is such a hard sport to pick up when you're like older because somehow you have to learn how to glide, how to use water to propel your body forward. So do you feel that any of that is true? And like, how many years would you give yourself to kind of improve your swim, after which you would consider that it's like impossible to do it, or that mindset doesn't really like you just didn't have these kind of thoughts before?
No, like sometimes people say the same thing with running. Like some people just aren't good runners, and they are born like this, and you can't really change their technique, and their feeling for running is not teachable in a way. And the same thing is to be said for the swimming. Like there's some people that don't have a good feeling for the water. Um, and I actually went to go see a specialist in Australia in December, and I wanted to get an answer to answer what you just asked. Like, do I have the capabilities to be a good swimmer? Like, do I have that feeling, the technique that is so important? Um, and so
So did it reassure you or did it scare you um after meeting that guy, that specialist?
no, it reassured me a lot. So he's actually uh got a YouTube channel and Instagram page that specializes in uh yeah, giving lots, like thousands of swimmers
Is
advice on
it
how to
is
swim
it
properly.
effortless swimming?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but that guy really saved me like so many hours in the pool.
Yeah.
Like his videos are so good. I bought, okay, this is going to be like an ad, but I bought his program called like €5 5 day catch challenge, something like that. And honestly, like my swim improved by like 10 seconds per 100 meters after these 5 days. It was that good.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this guy, he lives 1 hour from my house. So um and yeah, he did a YouTube video and he just released it yesterday about my swim technique and everything. And actually he says that I have a really good feeling for the water. And I just need, like, the time that I put into my swimming, it will actually make me faster. So that, as you said, there's some guys that you get to a certain point and they don't get faster. Doesn't matter how much time they spend in the pool. But he said with my technique, I'm actually really efficient and I have a good feeling. So when he said that, I was really relieved because it means that the time that I put in, I'll actually, in theory, go faster.
Yeah.
Um,
You have the potential for actually having like a professional or very high level in swimming.
yeah, no, he said, like, for sure you could be a front pack swimmer, and he said that honestly because he knows he wouldn't say that
Hmm.
Yeah.
just to give me hope because this is like professional advice. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, he. But the key thing there is to do work. So like, it takes time. Um, and also over the last 6 weeks, 2 months, maybe I didn't dedicate enough time to swimming. Um, like I had the half marathon build up, where I decreased my swim volume a bit and was swimming basically for recovery and not doing big sessions. Um, so I need to change my priority a bit. But yeah, there's potential there.
Nice.
I just need to grow some bigger muscles as well.
Yeah. Is it because like as a kid, you were born in Australia? So is it because you were doing like lots of sports as a kid? You were probably maybe in the water, I don't know, like playing in the waves or
I don't know. Like, my two sisters are really good swimmers,
Yep.
and my dad is a good swimmer too.
Okay.
So it kind of comes in the
Hmm.
family. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
In the whole
for
country, I feel like at this point.
yeah,
I wonder how you felt because earlier, like just before the podcast, William he showed me the video of Melbourne 2013, and we saw that you
oh, that's
commented
crazy, eh?
below. So, like, for me, it's like claustrophobic type of vibes that I have when I see that. How was it like this first swim before? Like, were you stressed, and then during, were you thinking, "Oh, this is crazy"? Like, I didn't expect that.
I didn't really know what to expect because it was my first situation of this. So in this case, like, ignorance was bliss almost up until the point where I couldn't keep up. Um, then ignorance was definitely not bliss. I was getting dropped. Um, but yeah, like having 40 guys, uh, like 45 guys all running into the ocean at once and seeing how fast and experienced they were and also seeing how relaxed they were was kind of daunting. And Also, like it was quite dark because the sunrise was at 7:30 and we started at 7:30 and you couldn't really see much, so you're kind of diving into this dark ocean with all these bodies. It was kind of like a very foreign experience that I didn't really understand what was going on. Um, but I knew that I had to try and hold people's feet. I guess they call it in swimming, like almost like cycling. You need to try and draft behind the swimmer in front of you to get the sit.
Uh-huh.
And that was my focus, but I very quickly realized that I couldn't do that. So yeah, this chaos of everyone jumping on each other and like that chaos very quickly disappeared because I was by myself. Um, it was
Okay.
almost peaceful. Like I just had the sunrise and just swimming by myself. Yeah, I don't know. And swimming in a wetsuit is much easier than swimming in a pair of shorts in a pool. You really feel more controlled.
Did that experience kind of live up to your expectations? Because I feel like you're very committed to the current situation you're in the way that you've left something for a new sport. So like the opportunity cost we could say is quite high, and you've been training for 6 months and you come up to that race and you don't really know what to expect, but I guess you had like expectations of what your level would be, but also expectations of do I actually enjoy that sport? Because you're pretty much set to keep doing triathlon for I feel quite some time now because I
Yeah,
mean
yeah,
maybe you still have some backup options to go back to cycling or to do other sports or just to live off, I don't know, like a normal job outside of sports like most people, but I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like the level of commitment is high. And now you've had your first experience of triathlon, so do you feel like okay, I actually enjoy the sport or do you feel like actually I don't like swimming that much. Fuck it, I will just do something else.
No, I can see why you think that because like to be like that experience that I had in the swim was nothing I've ever experienced in sport or anything like yeah, it was really strange to be on like doing a sport and like to be so humbled in a certain section of that race and for it to event to and for it to actually just fully destroy my chances of winning too. So it was really mentally it was really challenging and like to come out of the water so far behind, so many people would just say like, yeah, I this is not like I can't handle this. But as you said, like there's a certain level of it's not commitment, but like for me, there's a curiosity because of my riding and running ability that I can be really good at this sport, and I owe it to myself to to sort out the swimming to find out how good I can be. Like the best thing that I saw from Sunday was like if I do bring my swimming up to the minimum standard to be in the race, I can for sure win things. So that was really good to see. Like yeah, so I got confidence from it, but I also got my head kicked in the swim and that's not easy. Um but I enjoyed it. So like and I also saw like the other pros doing the race and enjoying it themselves too. And seeing what it was all about. And it felt like a big deal. Like lots of people were passionate for it, and um, yeah, there was a real cool atmosphere at the race as well. Um, so it kind of ticked all the boxes, with the exception of yeah, me being so far behind the swim. Like I was thinking, okay, if this time next year, if I've sorted my swimming out and I'm at that same race, and I'm coming into the run leg and I could potentially win the thing, like that's awesome. That's such good racing, and that's what I would live for, and that's sick.
Mm.
So yeah,
That's a good realization to have then.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Also daunting to think how much work I have to do in the pool because that's also not easy. Yeah,
But I mean, yeah, you have two separate processes, like learning triathlon and racing, but as well like improving your swim, like because it's the difficult part of I guess your situation is that you are humbled in the first 30 minutes of the race. And it's gonna be a 3 hour and a half race. So that's the worst time to, like, as a competitor, imagine, like, for example, if I we take the example of San Remo and Pogacar against Van der Poel. It's as if Van der Poel would every time at every race, like, had had to wait 30 minutes or 20 minutes and
Yeah.
then go.
Yeah, yeah.
And it would, like, be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, okay, so I'm gonna have to be on a huge day to make up for that loss and then try to win." But in the end, if you take it just more as a game, like, okay, I need to reduce that gap, reduce that time that I have, like, to cover, then maybe, like, at every race you're gonna say, okay, now I lost only 8 minutes, then I lost 6 minutes, and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
it's like the
No, no, for
wolf
sure.
coming back, like, to pick you, to pick
Yeah,
the
yeah,
big
yeah.
boys. So yeah.
And for sure, that's just the way that my racing will have to go for my first season. Um, and that tactic can also be really exciting. And if I win in this way, also, it can be a really cool story, and people will get around it as well.
Hmm.
Like people love this stuff of the a guy coming from behind. Um, and I also kind of enjoyed it on the weekend, like passing people on the run, knowing that at one point I was 9.5 minutes behind them and I still beat them was really satisfying. Um, so that was good.
So, because I think it's a good transition now from triathlon to your past life as a pro cyclist. And just out of curiosity, how does it compare to the start of a big race in cycling? Because in triathlon, like you said, 40 pros, around
Yeah.
40, which is
Yeah, there was
it's much more in cycling. Mm,
40 pros and then 20 women pros.
mhm.
Um, and then I think 3,000 amateurs,
Okay.
or less. So yeah, it was not as big of an atmosphere as a cycling race. Um, but yeah, it felt like a small version of a cycling race, like more similar to like a national championships, that kind of feeling.
Okay.
Um, in
But
terms of spectator and
did you enjoy the atmosphere before a cycling race? Or was it, like, more competitive or less, like, is it a less how do I say, do people, like, talk to each other? Usually, my images in my head is in the Tour de France, the big guys, they seem to have a chat before the race, and it looks like a cool atmosphere. But how is it really in most races?
no, in this race it was a bit more tense, the feeling
Mm.
between athletes. There was
Okay.
definitely a bit, guys were because the swim is pretty aggressive. This first 5 minutes of the swim is full gas. Uh, and so you're not really like in these cycling races, some of these guys they don't need to switch on until 3.5 hours into the race, kind of, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but there was, and also these races, like these guys are only racing 6, 7 times a year, whereas and there's always a big build up, a big training block for this one day as a triathlete, and so there's a bit more on the line and a bit more intensity in that regard. Um, so yeah, there's guys that really want to, and especially with like it was like the debut race, so lots of guys are unsure about how they were going to perform. So everyone was really serious. No one really seemed that relaxed. Um, but yeah, there was certainly a sense of nerves on
Okay.
before the swim, and also kind of cool too because it was dark. Like had this like moody kind of feeling to it, like a bit more dramatic. I don't know. It's kind of like when you go to the cinemas and it's kind of like yeah, got that cool feeling before it all kicks off.
Yeah, 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 I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I guess a passionate atmosphere, but with nerves and a bit of
Yeah, yeah.
electricity in the air, like. which is not
Yeah,
the
like
same in cycling
guys
because you
with
start slow. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And like guys with the headphones in, and like it was pretty clear that guys had like a lot of caffeine in their system, ready to go, like all this stuff.
And how about you?
Um, I
Do you also put the headphones in and
no, I had it in neutral. I was trying to stay relaxed. I didn't really know what to expect, so like I didn't really understand what was going on, so it's hard to truly get hyped up for something that I hadn't experienced
Mm.
before.
yeah?
Um, it made me a bit nervous seeing, the world champion getting nervous for the start, because I was like, what does he know that I don't?
It's like
Um,
this. It's like the feeling where when you're in class and the best in the class before math test starts getting so anxious and you're like, oh shit, what don't I
yeah, yeah,
know?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like the worst tests I did in school were always the ones that I thought were going to be okay, because I didn't know what I didn't know, kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
that's a
yeah,
good.
similar similar idea.
And so the big point in your career was that moment you decided to stop cycling, and there are kind of two ways we can kind of look at that decision. It was rather if you were pushed away from cycling to another sport, or rather if you were like pulled in a way that another sport attracted you more than the sport you were doing at that time. So when you moved from cycling to triathlon, was it because you didn't want to have anything to do with cycling anymore because you just hated the sport, or was it because triathlon just seemed like that interesting sport that you were curious about and you wanted to know your potential in that sport? So probably it's a bit of both, but I'm curious to hear.
Yeah, yeah. This is a question that is like a really important one to answer, because it was one that was it's essentially the whole reason why I changed. Like, was not purely for one reason, but a few reasons. So within my cycling career anyway, like I was in the world tour for 4 years, and then I was racing in Australia for a continental team, a semi-professional team, and then also in Portugal as a semi-professional. Um, and then I finally made it back to the pro ranks. Finally, thinking that I had made it again, and like my dream came true again, and I was back racing in the biggest races. And I got into the first season races in February, March, and like I had a huge lead up, was super fit, super motivated in training, and I got to the races and like didn't really have that spark. I don't know. Like in bike racing, you really need to want it to do it properly. You have to be willing to take the risks for starters, just from a racing dynamic, like not touch your brakes, uh, get really hyped up and to go really deep. And the moment that you kind of lose that adrenaline passion for the sport, then naturally you start asking questions like, what's going on? Um, and then on top of that, I had safety concerns. One, because I crashed a lot and I was seeing a lot of crashes. And every time the bunch would get really close together and almost crash, like I got scared basically. Um, and when you couple that like loss of passion plus the safety concerns for the sport, then you really start putting question marks about your training at home, the altitude camps that you're doing. Like it takes a lot of sacrifice to do the sport, and when you start having these thoughts, questioning why am I doing this, then naturally you're going to wonder why you're doing it. And then I was also watching, other sports. I was watching running and triathlon and seeing like other athletes doing cool things in different sports, and then I came to the thought of the idea being like, okay, I'm I'm 28 years old. I'm like, could I do something different? Like I have an athletic window in endurance sports for another 6, 7 years, and I looked at pros that were in a similar situation to me, where they were fighting for a contract each year, and kind of very stressed, anxious, like still passionate about the sport and loving what they're doing, but there's clearly a cloud over their head of like the stress of the cycling contracts, the stress of the sport, the dangers, etc. And if I could take my talents into a new sport and possibly be as successful, if not more successful, then why not take that chance? If I was feeling like my career was getting stale in cycling. So yeah, I looked further into triathlon. I did some numbers on my running potential and also my riding, and thought, okay, if I put my professionalism, training knowledge, and also physiology into swimming, then I should also be able to work out swimming. Now that's a big assumption to make, but a right one to make, I think. And so if I can do that, then I could be really good at triathlons. And also with the way the professional triathlon is currently going, like it's getting bigger and bigger at the professional level. And more athletes are able to make a good living if they are talented and have the right support network. And yeah, so I thought, well, I think I should take the chance. And then I was thinking about this, and then I crashed pretty hard in the Dauphiné. And that was the decision for me to, okay, this is for sure the right call. And yeah, like, that wasn't a reflection on anything to do with the team that I was on or anything like that. Like, I had the perfect opportunity to get my career back online there, and had every reason to love the sport because it is an awesome job. But for those reasons, I had decided to change. So yeah, crashed out in the Dauphiné, and then started piecing together the plan to make the transition across to pro triathlon. And yeah.
So at that moment, regarding your cycling career, like what were the objectives that you had that would make that end of career like worth it for you? Like, did you have what was your perspective basically in cycling, and was it hard maybe to what I want to say ultimately is, was this perspective of potentially winning things in triathlon better than just like surviving in cycling every year?
Yeah, for sure. Because at the crux of the problem was I wanted to be a happy athlete. Um, and like I couldn't keep training for cycling if I was rocking up to the races nervous for my concern for my safety and losing the spark for the sport. So like there's a massive problem with all the sacrifice related with altitude camps and the training you need to do for cycling if you're having these thoughts. Like you can't go ride your bike for 6 hours if you're thinking about these things. And so as a result, I thought, okay, maybe I need to change my life a bit. And like luckily, I reached out to some of the partners in the cycling team and explained my situation and said that, I need to have some support for next year. I think I could be really good, and it would be really special if I could create a small team of partners for this new change. And so that was also an important part of it, to see if people were interested to get involved, to support the whole idea. Because it's all well and good to have these grand plans, but you also need to have sponsors as well, because that's also complicated.
Yeah, because there's no
But
team anymore in triathlon.
no,
Yeah.
I do it all myself, and that's a big change too that I had to think about. Like, all I needed to do was organize a contract in road cycling, and everything else was organized. Whereas in triathlon, I'm a self-employed athlete. I basically run my own business, and I have to try to create commercial value for people to get involved, or for people to want to get involved for the story. And so, yeah, yeah. I think does that answer the question a bit? kind of.
Maybe yes, and maybe one
Yes and
last,
no.
like, yes and no, in the sense that what I wanted to know as well is, did you have what did you still have as objective in cycling? Like, now that you've
Yeah, yeah.
stopped and that you probably won't go back, do you have any regrets, or do you feel like there are things you wanted to achieve that you were not able to ultimately?
My I did a Grand Tour in the Giro. That was a
Mhm.
big tick, and I had some good days in that race. I couldn't see myself doing the Tour de France in the future because you have to be in a World Tour team and also be one of the top 7 riders in a World Tour team, and I couldn't see that. I don't think. So I don't
Mhm.
think that was a realistic objective. Uh, I never did a monument, so that's the one regret. Uh, I got sick on the morning of Lombardia, and so I never started that. So that's one thing that I didn't tick, which I wish I could have, but that's just the reality. Um, but no, I don't really have any regrets in cycling. Like I did everything that I wanted to. And, like actually, my proudest moments on the bike were not when I was racing at the top level of the sport. Like my proudest sporting moment on the bike was when I won in Volta Portugal to go to then eventually get my pro contract back into the pro ranks. Like if someone was to ask me what was your proudest moment in sport, it's probably uh, being semi-professional for 2 years unpaid, having the self-belief uh, to essentially burn half my savings to then believe that I could go pro again. And when I won that race, I went pro from that race. And so winning that race was like the proudest moment that I ever had in cycling. And I don't think any result in the World Tour or Pro Tour would
Mm.
trump that. I don't think.
Okay, yeah.
I guess there's some guys that get a real satisfaction from winning certain races or like big races. But for me, like it's like the context of the race or the performance. So in that case, like it's a pretty big deal. Um, yeah.
Do you still watch cycling, or you feel too scared for the other riders?
No, I still love cycling. I love cycling. Uh, I still watch it a lot. Um, and I think the athletes in the sport, because I understand the athlete side of things and what it takes to get to the top of the sport and win those things, I still love watching it from that regard. Um, so like still a complete fan of the sport. But like for example, I don't know if you like ever see these like Velon, is it Velon? Yeah, Velon
I think
cameras
Whelan
in
CC,
the Velon CC.
the
Like
one that
sometimes
the
there's
one who show the watts, right, of each
yeah the
athlete.
watts and
Yeah,
like the like POV cameras in the mid race
yeah.
of crashes. Like if I watch videos of that, I get like that PTSD feeling of
It
like
gets sweaty hands.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for and that's like the point of view that I hate. Like I can't, and I'm so glad I'm away from that. And like seeing all these crashes in the early season races, like in Paris-Nice, for example, there was big crashes every day.
Hmm.
I was like, I'm so glad and that I'm removed from this. Um, and yeah, but and I'll be even more glad if I can be successful at this new
Mm.
job. And there's only one way to find out.
Could you tell us what it feels
Yeah.
like? Because that's the one thing I feel people don't realize when they watch cycling races is what it feels like to be in the bunch. Because honestly, like just when I'm out riding with friends and we are like four, five, six in a group, I already have like my hands on the brake in case like someone does some stupid shit in front of me. But of course, everyone has better bike handling skills when they are professionals, this but just like the simple the speed at which you guys go, and the terrain and everything, and how slippery it can be, and then the weather can also happen, and then I don't know, like it's outside anyways, so like a bird could come, a dog could come, or whatever. How it feels like to be in the bunch, like are you like 100% focused during the whole time and scared? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, like I came to the sport really late. So I first started riding when I was 20.
Okay.
And then I was racing in the world tour within 2.5 years of ever doing my first criterium. So like I never had the skills that these guys have to to be completely relaxed and have this like innate ability to just move the bike around and avoid stuff. So that's also why I crash more than other guys. Like I often hear people talk about how unlucky I got with some of my crashes, but 50% of it was also my inability to avoid it when other guys could. And so that's also why I got more scared than the normal bike rider because of my inability to avoid crashes when other people could just do some pretty crazy stuff on the bike and not even think. Uh, so like, so in my specific context, like I was much more at danger than the others, if that makes sense,
Mm.
who are already in a very dangerous sport. Um, yeah,
So that's crazy because now, in a way, it's you transitioning from cycling to triathlon is the second transition you made in your career. Because as
yeah,
we with the information that we got thanks to ChatGPT, actually, that it knows you well. They said like so in 2016 you were more of a running athlete, and then you transition to cycling. How did that happen? And it's crazy how successful you were transitioning so late.
yeah. So I was a runner through high school, and I got injured in first year university when I was 19, 20 years old, and had stopped running really fast. I thought it was the end of the world. I lost my identity a bit. Went through a bit of a, I wouldn't call it a depression, but like I was a bit lost because I got injured from running, and that was uh like my social group, my identity, like my talent disappeared. And then I started cycling. I actually did 6 months as a bit of a gym bro and went to Europe and partied. Um, and then I realized I feel gross, and so I started cycling when I got back home. Um, and yeah, and then started racing locally, and then I came second in the Australian under 23 road race within a year. And then that allowed me to go race for the Australian team in Europe. And then I won my first European road race, which was the Ronde van Vlaanderen under 23. Um,
And
and
we
then from
checked
that
that
race, I
race.
started.
We checked the
Hey,
race result actually this morning, and the funny thing was to see that Tadej was 15th on that race,
yeah, yeah,
and you won it. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
a
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
cool achievement.
So the title of
yeah.
the podcast will be "The Guy Who Beat Tadej" in a monument.
No, but it was
In a
huge for
monument.
you. Like, how did you process that win at that time?
I didn't understand at the time. I didn't understand what I did. I didn't know. Like, I was just this Aussie guy who was good at bike riding. Was told to go do this Belgian race with the national team, and then I did it, and then I tacked on one of the finishing circuits and won. It's literally that's as simple as it happened. Um, and then I had an agent from who I signed with a few months prior to that, and he found it really funny that he didn't understand what this result would do for my life. Because I just thought that I would win, take the trophy home, and go back to Australia and keep racing in Australia.
Mm.
And he goes, no, no, no. Like, uh, we are negotiating a three-year contract with EF. Uh, so yeah, it was a really fast transition, and also like, yeah, and then I found myself racing in the world tour at 80k an hour with the bike handling skills of a runner. So like, it's at that moment I didn't understand what I was getting myself into, and it was a good thing because I would have been really nervous if I had have understood uh, essentially getting a job that I wasn't qualified for, basically. Um, but yeah, that's how that was my story to the world tour. So yeah,
But and did you even like? I mean, didn't you even watch cycling before? Was it something? Was it a sport that was in your interest, or you were like, okay, let's. I want to keep being good at some other sport, and I'm gonna go to cycling. Oh, I'm good. I win a one of the biggest race for my age group.
When I went to Belgium, I saw how passionate the guys were for cycling, and I was just this Aussie guy rocking up to a race, not really understanding the history and winning it. Only then seeing them and how passionate they were, only then did I begin to understand, okay, uh, like this is actually a big deal. And that I kind of did just walk onto the stage and like start winning stuff that I didn't deserve to win, to be honest, but I did. Yeah, because these guys, they like their life like builds up for 10 years for this race, and I'm just a runner, an injured runner who rocks up
Hmm.
to Belgium with a good physiology and just attacks at the right moment. Yeah,
In a way, this innocence was both a strength, and in the end, it was a weakness. With the
yeah,
fact that you were not that like the born rider who could get his way out of crashes and things like this. So it's interesting.
yeah. It was like the greatest thing that ever happened to me, but then also the weakness that I could never get rid of. Um, and a weakness that I thought I would be able to fix, but I definitely improved. But then when you crash, you like you get worse on the bike for a bit, and
Mm.
then you get good again. There was sometimes when I had a few races, and I thought I really can do this quite well. And then 2 months later, I would crash or get close to crashing, and then I'd get all stiff again on the bike and not move it properly. And that was kind of how it went. Um, like it's kind of similar. Like these pros would always say after a big off season, their first race back, they felt a bit stiff on the bike. That would kind of be the feeling that I have all year.
Mm.
It's kind of a good way of putting it.
This might be a far-fetched question, but you pretty much joined the World Tour. Was it like 2018, 2019?
Yeah.
And then you lost your contract in 2021. Did you
Yeah.
feel kind of relieved um, to lose the contract in the way that it would get you away from the risks and dangers you have, or is continental level maybe even more dangerous than the professional level?
No, I wasn't relieved. I broke my pelvis in Itzulia, Basque Country in April on my contract year, and I thought maybe that was the end of my contract with EF. But then I had this really good training block in the middle of the year and came back to some races in incredible form. And I thought, okay, I need to keep doing this cycling thing because I'm actually really good. Um, and like physically, like I have the ability to do some really good things on the bike. So I still want to be racing at this level, and I'm passionate about it. Like I did have a good ability to have these crashes and bounce back, and to bounce back at a really good level. Um, and because of my pure physical ability, I did have that chance to potentially win some things, some big things. And so that was always the thing feeding me to keep going back to the sport at the top level. Um, and I wasn't happy to drop down to the continental level. And that wasn't because of the pay. Like I just wanted to be at the top of the sport, like doing the training, the sacrifice, and then going to big races, and then having the opportunity to have another result that would change my life, that kind of stuff. But then I found myself in a situation where I was racing at the continental level as a semi-pro, trying to get that result to go back to where I was. So that was then the new motivation. So, and yeah,
What?
came second in the
Mm.
Australian road race that next year. And then won the COVID edition of the Tour Down Under. And so I thought that result would get me back to the pro stuff, but it didn't happen. I trained in Europe for 5 months without a contract that year. And then I went to Portugal and raced in Portugal. And then had this belief that if I won the general classification of the Volta of Portugal or won the Queen stage of the Volta of Portugal, then I'd be able to get a pro contract. And I won the Queen stage. So that's how that worked.
What was your happiest moment, the happiest moment of your cycling career?
For sure, winning in Portugal.
Mm.
It's like a little video of me crossing the line and also like a reaction video at the end where I was clearly very emotional about it all, beyond what I've ever seen myself. So for sure that, yeah.
It's interesting that one of the maybe the most important moment in your whole athletic career comes from being basically dropped from the world tour and having
Yeah,
to
yeah.
build back up. And that's interesting, I guess, because now it's something that you bring with you every day to triathlon, that belief that you can, from a dark place, you can um, like find the light again, in
Yeah.
in a
I
nice
don't I
way.
don't like I don't like to call it like I don't like to call it like a dark place because at the
Mm,
end of the day it's just sport. But I know what you mean.
mm.
Yeah, like
From a place where it would have been
some
maybe
athletes.
easier to quit.
Yeah, no, for
Mm.
sure. 100%. Like I come from a at the end of my world tour contract, I come from a home and a support network back home in Australia where I have a good life back home. I have every opportunity to be successful at something else. Like I see some bike riders who are super talented at bike riding and they don't really have like maybe other skills to do something different. And so they go all in on bike riding and that's their chosen passion and that's what they're born to do, right? I wouldn't say like I could uh work in a normal job and be quite successful and quite happy and more comfortable. But I don't know. For the moment, I enjoy being a chaser. Some people call it this. Um, but yeah, I always ask like I could have just continued to study my uni degree, and right now I would be 7 years into my nice, comfortable job where I get paid 3% more every year. I do wonder like I wonder what my true feelings would be. Um,
Maybe
Never
we
find
can
out.
we can help you find out, because like we I made it to 2 years and a half, and then I started to feel totally
Yeah.
depressed and had to do something else. So yeah,
Yeah.
depending on, I guess, depending on your personality and your, I would not say ambition, but your, I'd say it's more of a, how do I say that? It's not ambition. It's a bit,
Like sense of purpose.
yeah, sense of purpose, and you know, idealistic view of life. Like, I guess the more you are a bit romantic about your life, idealistic, the harder it it gets to accept that life of having a comfortable job, uh, with a synonym being boring job. Um, and yeah, I think that's the that's something that's pretty hard to sustain at some point. It's not saying that
No,
we're not
yeah.
going back to
Yeah.
it, but
That is the kind of things you have to experience by yourself to see what it feels like. Because I think, like on the paper, being a professional cyclist sounds really good. And many people, I'm sure they would love to be in your shoes. But the reality is that when they see what the training really is like, all the risks you guys take, then they have a different opinion on the same job. And the same
honestly,
goes
I would
for
not.
working in a company.
I don't find it. I don't find being a professional cyclist, uh, like, I have a lot of respect, but don't find it exciting. Like, compared to being like a football player, for example. I mean,
Yeah.
also that's because I love the sport as well, but it's my biggest passion in a way. But I see, a life of a professional cyclist as something really hard, honestly. Like you have to, your body goes through so much suffering, and like at least once you're gonna have a huge injury, and you get bit, you get bitten so much. Like it's so hard to win in cycling. Like you, it's
Yeah, yeah.
crazy that you won. Like, but we're not gonna interview a lot of cyclists that won things like at the highest level. So it's one of the hardest sports, like honestly, from
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
outside.
And this dynamic is what makes it interesting to watch and to understand as a fan, because when you begin to understand these uh the challenges of this sport, that's why people become so passionate about it. Um but unfortunately the riders are the ones that have to experience the
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 beating.
circus and be victims of the savage sport.
Mm. But I think you said a nice thing before, and it will be like a nice ways to circle back to that is you just want to be a happy athlete. At what
Yeah.
moment did you realize that this is what you were optimizing for and not something else?
Like to choose to be a professional triathlete, or
I mean, maybe it was like a moment in your cycling career where you realized that, okay, I'm an athlete, but I'm not a happy one. And what I care about is being happy while pursuing athletic goals. And that cycling wasn't aligned with that. Um,
I mean, in my case, like my safety concerns for the sport became so big that my chances of being successful in the sport were basically no longer.
Hmm.
So that's the whole reason why you train and do the sacrifices at home, altitude camps, is to chase that winning opportunity. And if that opportunity is gone, then what are you doing it for? You're just doing it to put yourself in danger every race, and that's it. And then potentially just be out of a contract again. So at that point, you need to say, okay, I could be a really happy athlete in another sport and potentially be good at it. Um, and if the opportunity is there, then take it, because the other option is not very successful nor healthy from like a athlete mental
Hmm.
perspective. And I observe that in some, like a lot of older riders who are constantly grinding through and ignoring that headspace. Um, yeah,
what is the percentage of riders in the world tour that you think are happy?
it's really difficult to say. Like maybe they are unhappy for 7 months of the season and then they win one race and it's all worth it.
Yeah.
Uh, and then at the end of their career, they can say they can be really proud of what they put themselves through in order to achieve success,
Mhm.
and they can walk walk around proud of themselves and have like a sense of uh, achievement with their lives through
Mhm.
adversity or whatever. If
Mhm.
that makes sense. I mean, there's some guys that just continue to win and make it look easy, and of course they're happy. Um, but
So maybe like happy doing it while they are
yeah,
being there in the pro peloton, but
there's not many. Well, like one thing for sure, like 100%. There's not many guys that would do it for 40,000 euro a year.
Hmm.
Like there's plenty of those good riders who are on like good big contracts, but they wouldn't do it for less than 300K a year.
Hmm.
So many guys. If you had if there was a problem in cycling, all of a sudden there was no money left, and every rider had to get paid 100 grand, there would be no riders left.
that's a very good point.
For sure.
Yeah.
100%.
It seems like triathlon from the outside is a more sustainable sport with this idea that you want to be happy. Like I would say, like if there was a survey between all pro cyclists and pro triathletes, the triathletes would be much happier. I would imagine. Like
Well, it's interesting. When I look at professional runners, for example, like they're not getting paid that much. I mean, the guys that are like just like at elite at a national level and competing on an international circuit and maybe chasing national records in that circuit, but not winning. Like they're not on anywhere near the money of the professional cyclists who don't win. But these runners are the happiest athletes that I've I've seen. And they're just on a normal wage, like a normal job. And they're way more happier and motivated for life than what you see some of the guys in the world tour. And that's not to say that it's not a life worth living in the world tour. It's still an amazing job doing like the biggest races in the world. But yeah, when you open when you open this conversation to some of the riders, there's some riders that refuse to speak the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And apart
because they
from the
want to
safety,
ignore
what? What did you say?
it.
Because they want,
Because they want to ignore the truth
yeah.
in order
And
to
what's
put up with the job that
mm,
they have.
and the truth would be that, like,
It's a really difficult time and it's really dangerous.
yeah,
And uh,
without like if money wasn't part of the equation, they would do other things.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. But there's still plenty of cyclists that are just
Mm.
that are purists. They just
Mm.
absolutely love the sport. So they want to race as much as they can. But there's not many of those in the world tour, I don't think.
And do you think if we were to have done that survey for 30 years, for the last 30 years, do you think that the happiness of like variable would have gone down? Like that, I would feel like I would expect, if I had to expect the results, I would expect the curve to go a bit with a downwards shape.
Yeah, for sure. There's no more
Yeah.
easy races. The pressure is higher. The racing is faster. The standard is double.
Mm.
The standard goes up 2% every year since COVID. It's the careers are getting shorter and shorter.
What's the limit of that?
I don't
Like,
know. It
yeah.
continues to get faster.
Mm.
I thought it was really interesting to observe when I first turned pro in 2019. I felt the racing for a year and a bit before COVID, and then the racing after COVID, it was crazy, the standard. And then also going out from the top level of sport for 2 years and then going back in when I was on Q365 pro cycling to then again see the standard jump even higher. It was crazy. It's like a new sport. I had to have my threshold like 30 watts more and like my weight like 4 kilos less just just to physically be in the game, and then also technically it has gone up a new level too. Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that the entertainment has gone that much up. Like, yes, Pogacar is one of a kind. Like, he's basically like how would I say, like, he's the like when you're watching a race and there's Pogacar, you know you're gonna get entertained in some way. But I wouldn't say, like, apart from him and maybe Van der Poel, I wouldn't say that the races are much better to watch than before. Like when I was young and I was watching the Tour de France, like I didn't really care about the performances. It's more the story behind the rivalries that's interesting. So what I come to with that question is like w- the this increase every year. If it's not to increase the entertainment, like I guess it's becoming dangerous a bit, especially in a
Yeah.
sport that tended to push the limits outside of the limits, you know?
There will come a point where um like it needs to it's in the interest for the teams to make sure that their assets do not get broken every second race.
Yeah.
And at this rate, like, these guys the best riders in the world are constantly out of the races for 4 months, 5 months of the year because of broken collarbones and things like this. It's becoming more and more common. Like every GC rider last year, I swear, was out for a massive crash for like 3 or 4 months of the season. So like, yeah, it becomes like, I don't know what the answer is, to be honest. And it's just going to get faster and faster because there's more and more people getting involved in the aerodynamics and the equipment. As more money comes into the sport, it'll just continue to compound this high performance. But you're right, it doesn't change purely from a sporting entertainment side of things, which is the crux of why sport exists. It hasn't changed anything. Unless you really understand the
Yeah,
nuances of the sport and what it takes. But
unless
that's
you're
like a super fan kind
yeah.
of level.
And
Yeah.
what about the proposal there was to reduce or rather increase or change the size of the cassette so that you're not able to pedal at high speeds? What do you think of that? Is it because I heard that and I feel like I'm curious to hear what's the opinion of someone that's been in the professional peloton.
I don't think that would change much. I mean, I just think that people will start doing other things in order to go faster, like dive bombing in corners to move up instead of using power, sketchy stuff like that. Um, uh, yeah, I honestly don't know how to fix it.
So the
It's
only
like,
the,
Yeah.
the only the only solution is individual team trial, individual time trial, and
Mm.
then hill races.
Yeah, but the
Swift
individual
races.
time trial, it's boring. These are boring races. I mean, no,
Then
it's
if you
not
say this is
boring,
boring,
but
then you say triathlon is boring.
I mean,
Exactly.
triathlon to watch. To be honest, it's not like
It's not
I'm.
it's nowhere
Yeah,
near as
it's.
entertaining as pro
I mean,
cycling.
with the discussion that we had, like what I would like to watch is the start of the swim because it's look
No, but
like
the
a
swim, you
crazy
don't know
thing.
who's who.
But
You
yeah,
know
you
that
don't
there
know
is.
who's who. So
So
but it's yeah, it's less entertaining. I mean, not to say that cycling. I mean, cycling 80% of the time I mean, it's a nap sport. It's an afternoon nap sport, and then you wake up and you watch it in the cliche way. In France,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like your granddad is the TV is on, and he's gonna do 2 or 3 naps during the the race, and then he's gonna wake up in the end. But yeah, it's
but then
coming back to the other topic, or
but
maybe
the question is like, how do you make a professional career and how do you make a living out of a sport that is so hard to make to be like entertaining in a way?
In professional triathlon,
In professional triathlon, yes.
it's a different it's a different model. So like as a professional triathlete, you become an asset for the brands or companies with to sell the products to the age groupers or the amateurs and to inspire them to uh to buy their products essentially. Like essentially professional triathletes are trained and are very competitive and want to win races, but they do not exist purely for entertainment. They are like on a how do I explain it? They are like people for amateurs and to look up to in order to then be associated with the brands for then those people to then buy the things from those brands. Does that make
mm,
sense? I don't know.
Yeah, it
like
does.
it's like in a completely like I would say extremist view or simplistic view. It's like you're I know how to say, William, un panneau publicitaire a bit.
An advertising billboard.
Yeah, you're an
No, absolutely,
a living
absolutely.
advertising billboard.
Yeah.
Eh.
Within this sport that is a huge industry
Mm.
uh for many brands to sell products. Um kind of. And some people will listen to that and get so annoyed
Yeah.
because it's still like it's still a very competitive sport with lots of racing dynamics,
Mm.
but purely down to a sporting entertainment side of
Mm.
things. You can't compare it to road cycling and these things like this.
Mm.
Like it doesn't exist because it gets millions of views in July,
Mm.
like the Tour de France,
Mm. Yeah.
like that.
And in the same way that we try to find like to brainstorm any ideas to make the cycling less dangerous and to stop that crazy curve. Do you feel like there would be ways to make triathlon more entertaining for people like me?
I mean, a lot of the reason why I make this decision to go into triathlon is from watching the T100, which is a new league to compete against the Ironman, where the pros have their own little competition, global competition, 7 or 8 races a year, and is super well broadcasted, is really entertaining. There's real rivalries, uh, and it's marketed really well, and it has a professional production, and has like a championship and like something that's good to follow. So like in that regard, it's really good to watch. You can really see the personalities and yeah, the rivalries in this league, and also like the money involved in this league. It's like interesting because there's lots at stake as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of the reason I don't expect to get into that league anytime soon. But that got me interested into triathlon last year. And so from that point of view, they've successfully hooked me into wanting to do
Yeah.
triathlon.
And I don't think
Kind of.
inherently triathlon is a not non-entertaining sport. Like I wouldn't say it would be fair to say that because actually imagining watching the Tour de France every day, 6 or 7 hours straight for 21 days, like if it didn't have that like cultural and epic um, legacy, it would be boring as well, like as an idea. So I think it's what you said. Maybe this T100, maybe it's if those things start to build up and if personalities start to emerge, we never know. Like in 50 years, it could be huge because now people are getting more and more into triathlon, and it wouldn't surprise me that if people can watch like um, a cycling race for 8 hours, they would be able to watch a triathlon race for 4 hours. Like it's not crazy.
No, yeah. And if it's the way that the T100 is executing its publicity and marketing and talking about the athletes, it's really easy to understand and to get passionate about, purely
Mm,
from like a sports fan point of view.
mm,
Uh, and so that's why the sport is growing, I think. Also, it's growing because of the post-COVID like endurance boom that is really obvious in a lot of countries, but um, from a professional level in that regard, it's getting bigger. Yeah.
mm,
And if I can get my swim organized, then maybe one day I can try to get a wild card for it.
mm,
Yeah. I was going to talk about the fact that I feel in triathlon, age groupers are one of the big reasons why the sport is doing so well. In that the race you did last Saturday or Sunday, you had 60 pros, but you had 3,000 amateurs, and they are the one that make the brands live. And athletes like you kind of have a market to tap in. That's kind of like a horrible way to say it, but
mm.
they are
It's
they are
yeah, but like that's the crux of
yeah.
like your brands sponsor individuals for marketing. It's the same whether you're a influencer or an athlete or a billboard. Kind
Mm.
of.
But I feel we've talked about a fair bit about like triathlon cycling differences, how to make like a professional career out of it, and what your career was like. Is there a point we missed, or you feel like maybe there is a topic you would like to mention, or
Not really. I don't know. Yeah.
It's
Al?
the first time we didn't dive into the young years of the guest, like any anecdotes from where where you when you were young. And but I think it's interesting as well, like to do it in reverse. It's the first time we do that, and it has been nice. Uh, maybe we have to ask you the question of the previous guest. That's the we started this. I mean, we totally completely stole the idea from a big podcast, but it's a nice idea. And so the previous guest, he was an alpine skier, an Italian alpine skier, and his question was, and I don't have it written on paper, but I'm gonna try to formulate it the right way. It was, when did you feel, and if you ever felt that, when did you feel that all of the efforts you you made, and all of the efforts you put through your athletic career, when did you feel like it was worth it, if you ever felt that?
Uh, uh, I mean, I've said it on the podcast a few times, but like the Volta Portugal win, after a few years of self-belief and like a lot of challenges, yeah, that was like a crux moment where like one mountain I attacked and I won up that mountain. That was like a defining moment. So that was pretty
Mm.
like that kind of moment, but I feel like I haven't had it yet.
Okay.
And you have to think like that because
Yeah.
otherwise, if you think you've had it, then what are you doing
Yeah, that's true. I mean, in his case,
as an
it was a
athlete?
bit different because, he was already at the highest level he could get
Okay,
to, and he
okay,
had like I mean, he did a podium at a World Cup race, and it's difficult to do more. I mean, you can win, but I think, yeah, I like this question because usually it's hard to know, and I mean, it would be hard to have a life where you like, with a bit of perspective, you say, okay, it was not worth it. Like, it's hard to, but I mean, it's always
yeah,
worth it in a way
yeah, yeah,
if you gave
exactly,
100%.
yeah. I don't know, yeah, but in my case, like I feel like well, on a global context in terms of a result, I don't feel like I've had it yet. But then I also wonder, like I don't think necessarily that's one of the goals of being an athlete is to have this big success, but then also on the other side, as I said, I want to be a happy athlete. And that doesn't necessarily mean winning. It just means like doing things that I love and being somewhat successful about it. And then also chasing that chance to do something big. And that something big is winning something big.
Mm.
So in this case, in my new adventure, like to win a big triathlon essentially.
Are
Um,
you the happiest and most passionate and motivated you ever was in your career now?
I wouldn't say the happiest because the transition creates a lot of stress,
Mm.
lots of new stress, but I'm the most relaxed.
Okay.
Um, so I feel like I'm making the right decision.
It's
Uh,
interesting that you're the most relaxed when at something that adds new stress.
yeah, but like I'm now doing, I can kind of pick and choose what I
Mm.
want to race, these things,
Mm.
and I can kind of, which creates a new stress because I have to think strategically for
Mm.
myself and what is best in interest for me. But I
Mm.
feel like I have control of my life a bit more now.
Mm. Yeah.
So in this regard, that change in itself is very refreshing. Um, but I need to get good at the sport in order to make it all worth it.
the good thing, and that's what I thought before when you said like I thought I was going to improve my riding, but with every crash you got back to minus 20%. The good thing
Exactly.
in swimming is that I think you cannot crash in swimming. So so
No.
you should be on a linear curve, like I hope.
Yeah, you put the time in, you do the training, you get better at it. There's nothing to make that fall down. So
Yeah,
yeah, you're right.
you just gotta invest like a few hundred euros in the headphones that can go under the water, just because I don't know if you find it really like boring or not, but this is what I felt like. Like I was like staring at the pool at the bottom and then thinking about my stroke, but I felt kind of like it was a meditation in a way. But you're
Yeah, it
probably
comes.
going to spend more hours than I did at the time, so good luck with that.
Yeah, it's something that it's my problem, not yours. That's for sure.
Yeah. But I gotta check that after stage footage of the Volta of Portugal. That's the one thing I want to do after we finish talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. There's like a little reel on my Instagram from the race that takes it perfectly. Yeah.
All right. But thanks a lot for coming here and sharing your experience in triathlon cycling. And I think it's going to be really beneficial for a lot of people to kill some time on the trainer, but also to have some
And
insights on what it's actually like to be a professional in these two sports. So thank you.
get some time in the
No,
pool,
thanks.
maybe if they have
Yeah.
invested in that.
A little
But
less
if you,
running, less riding, and more
Yeah.
swimming. Yeah.
And if you like, because we didn't ask you, like, if you have the question for the next one now, if you have something in your mind now, you can tell us. Otherwise, we'll ask you later.
I don't have a good one. I will send one to
Okay,
you. Yeah.
perfect. No worries. Where can people find you if they want to follow your journey and your swim level?
Yeah. I have a YouTube channel. I can't believe I say that. I didn't think I would ever have a YouTube channel, but here we are. It's at Jimmy Whelan, and also my Instagram, Jimmy Whelan, Strava, Jimmy Whelan, all the same. So the easiest place is just to go to my Instagram, and you can see everything else from there. So yeah.
And that's it for episode 7 of the Emulation podcast. We really hope you enjoyed this chat with Jimmy Whelan. If you did, it would mean a lot to Robin and I if you could leave a 5-star review on Spotify or to subscribe if you happen to be on YouTube. Thanks for listening, take care, and we'll catch you in the next one.